Welcome one, welcome all. Greetings to everyone out there. If you're on your holiday travel, we're about to begin it. Or if you're just kicking it at home, we're happy to kick it with you. This is none other than the DFS Tailgate brought to you by In Between Media. I'm Seth Woolcock. I'm not your usual host, but I am filling up in for the great Bo McBigtime and our guy Nate Polvote. As always, joined by me is the mastermind behind all our DFS content here at In Between Media, Conor Coughlin. Yeah. What's up, brother?
What's up? You put it all on me like that. I see how you are.
Hey man, I don't want to be the one to get called out when I'm wrong. I get that enough in season long.
Me, it's more of a life thing, but but yeah, no, it feels a little weird midday on a weekday. No tailgate, no bar, and no booze.
I know. We're a little early in the day for that. But guys, we are going to talk a little bit about some of our favorite Thanksgiving recipes when it comes to drinks. We're going to break down this entire NFL slate, DFS style, what we can expect when it comes to tomorrow and the Thanksgiving slate. I don't know about you, Connor, but I mean, I know the slate this year, it isn't too sexy with a lot of more backup quarterbacks, backup wide receivers in it. But I'm looking forward to it. I always have fun watching the games with family, food, and a couple of drinks in hand maybe as well.
Yeah, totally. It's one of my favorite slates to watch, regardless of whether the football's good or not. It's just tradition. So I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a good time.
Absolutely. We normally on the DFS tailgate, how you guys normally started off is bringing some recipes, whether it's food, whether it's some drinks. Connor, what do you like to drink when it comes to Thanksgiving? Because it's definitely like a more difficult holiday. I've learned as I've gotten over the age of 21 to drink because you're so filled up on food. I have a lot of friends there in the craft beer industry. They love bringing that heavy stuff, but by 9 o'clock, I'm snoozing if that's the case.
Yeah, no, for me, honestly, light beer, I'll drink Busch Light or I'll drink Coors Light, most of the day. Definitely while you're hanging out watching football or something. And then kind of pre-dinner, post-dinner, I like to do like more of a classic like whiskey cocktail, like whether it's an old fashioned or Manhattan, something like that. Just something that I know I'm not going to pound and isn't going to keep filling me up. And it's a little classy. So you look nice bringing that bottle to the family outing.
Anytime I think of a whiskey drink, I think of whiskey sour. So I want to be the one. I want to be the classy one at the table. I'm with you there, though. Busch Light, I mean, you can drink it all day pretty much, not be that filled up. I'll maybe turn to like a vodka Sprite or something in the evening as well. Maybe get a little Tito's or something like that. But I feel like that way I'm fresh. I'm feeling good the next day when I wake up. I'm not hungover. I hate the next day, man. If I'm hungover, I'm an awful person to be around.
As is well documented by our show, I fight back well usually.
You do. One of the other cool things about this time of the year, and when it comes to having any types of drinks at some of these family functions, I love. I talked about last night that the nature's cooler. Just stick a case of Busch Light out there. It's cold all night long. You go to get it in the morning. There might still be some left. They're still cold if you need to fight off that hangover.
No, nature's cooler is where it's at. I see people lugging giant coolers to like family events and stuff. I'm like, why? It's like, 20 degrees out, just stick in the snow.
Yeah.
But I did want to ask you something before I forget about last night. I watched last night's show and you were talking about corn pudding.
Yes.
I am a huge fan. And I just wanted to say they kind of hit you like you were a little crazy. And I look forward to it every year. Like that. It's delicious. And I did something a little funky with it one year. I did throw a little bit of jalapeno in there. I like a little bit of spice to it. And it was absolutely set it off. But I'll take it either way. But I wanted to tell you you're not crazy.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I was on the podcast last night proclaiming my love for the undervalued corn pudding, really. And yeah, Nate and Scott, they looked at me like I was a little wild. I probably won't even have it this year because it's a staple kind of in my own family. I'm going out to the in-laws and the aunt and uncle, so I probably won't have it, but I will be thinking about it. And Connor, if you have it, enjoy, my friend.
I will be sending you pictures, man. It will be there.
As long as the bush light's in the background, it's cinematic for me, man. It's cinematic. Connor, what do you say, man? We jump into our first segment here, Underdog Stories. Guys, if you haven't checked out Underdog Fantasy yet, I highly, highly recommend it. Right now, you can deposit $100, get that 100% matched up. And I think the great thing about Underdog, and Connor, I think you'd agree with this, is the bonuses, the variety of ways to play, whether you're into best ball, whether you're into these 3, 6-man, 10-man drafts, 12-man drafts, or what we do a lot of the times, the pick and parlays. I think those are a lot of fun too. So we'll break that down in Underdog Stories. Guys, if you want to check it out again, use that promo code IBT. Get that match. It's just smart economics, guys. Let's go ahead and jump into Underdog Stories.
We really got to start hashtagging all the shows that deal with gambling in any capacity with smart economics.
Smart economics, baby. We might have to get that trademarked, honestly. I'm going to look into that.
T-shirts, man.
Koozies, too. I'm a big koozie guy. So, Connor, we're looking at this slate when it comes to Underdog Fantasy this week. And it's kind of a tougher slate because we've had players who they're big names, but they haven't performed lately. Cue Josh Allen, cue David Montgomery, guys that we haven't seen the big games from lately, but we know they're capable of it. And then we have all these guys who could be something. We don't really know. Traquan Smith comes to mind. We think about Cedric Wilson, Michael Gallup down there in Dallas. The Buffalo receivers outside Stephon Diggs are always hit or miss. So just overall impressions kind of the week in general and maybe how it relates to any of these over-unders, Connor.
Yeah, I think, I think there's some clear ones which we'll go over. But I think as a general statement, I think a lot of the quarterback wide receiver interactions that you're having to play some props on are tough this week. I think you've got a fair amount of injuries or questionables. You've got some, like you said, some relatively unknown guys. We don't really know what their floor or ceiling looks like.
Right.
And so I think it's a tough week for this. And I think some of the picks we're going to throw out there are kind of trying to limit your risk a little bit. Like when we get on Underdog, some of the ones I'm looking at that you've got, Seth, are exactly where I would be. Monkey Knife, we'll kind of talk with the head-to-heads, but some of those are tougher because some of the capacity of the guys that are going head-to-head, you don't know on one side. So I think it's tough. I think it's treacherous sledding.
Yeah, guys, if you do want to check out, we kind of broke down the slate in a season-long format style last night. So we talk about who your starts and sits should be. As far as Underdog Fantasy is concerned, the first one I'm going to go back to is no surprise, my guy, David Montgomery. I'm hitting the over here on 91.5 combined rushing and receiving yards for Montgomery. He hasn't done it in a while. We haven't seen it from him in a minute since before his injury. But here's what we do know, guys. They're playing the Detroit Lions. The Lions, they've been a little bit more improved. They're like still a bottom 12 defense against running backs over the last 4 weeks. But season long, they're still bottom 4, allowing more than 100 rushing yards per game. And I think if that trend continues, it's going to be David Montgomery, guys. He had 95% of the snaps last week, which I'm surprised a little bit how quickly they brought him back personally. But I just think right now, no Justin Fields, so you're not going to get his rushing upside on the ground. The Bears are going to have to lean on him. Allen Robinson, the availability is still a little sketchy for this week as well with Robinson. So I think right now, like David Montgomery, if the Bears have any chance of winning this game, which, it's a Lions, so you think they would, he's going to have to be over 100 yards. Do you have any hesitations with this at all, Connor?
I don't, and I think some of the news, especially like the last little blurb I read this morning about Allen Robinson, I think it kind of backs up what you're saying. With Andy Dalton and Allen Robinson out, and just kind of looking at how quickly they were to get David Montgomery back involved last week. The only thing that I maybe have a little bit of a hard time with, and again, it's Detroit this week, so the volume should be different. But last week, we only saw 14 rushing attempts out of him. And so if we have a similar down week in terms of usage like that, I don't know. It's going to be real tough to get to that number. However, like I said, I don't know who they're going to go to if they don't go to him.
Yeah, I think there's going to be more rushing attempts. I think they want to be close to that 20 mark, but just game flow, it's kind of been hard to get to that 20 number lately. The only concern I have about Monty at all is the receiving work. It's been a little bit concerning this year. He only is averaging 2 targets per game compared to 4.5 last season. So I'm expecting him to get it done, but I'm expecting him to get a majority done on the ground. And like, there's a chance this doesn't hit, but like, I think the odds are in your favor of the over for sure.
Yeah, and as far as the receiving usage goes, I mean, even prior to injury, he was averaging about 2.5 receptions a game. So I mean, I'm not terribly worried about that. I like him to just kind of pound away with him. Actually, I mean, I feel good about that bet, but you never know. Like we said, it's a weird slate.
Yeah, another over I'm going to hit on here on Thanksgiving, guys, is Josh Allen over 308.5 total yards combined. And, it's been tough sledding for Josh Allen. The Buffalo Bills lately, they went from the top of the AFC to almost being out of the playoff picture right now. I'm hitting this over. He's 6 out of 10 games this season. He's hit that over. And the Saints defense, it was pretty good at the beginning of the year, but since Jameis Winston went down, they've almost averaged 30 points per game allowed just in general to teams, not fantasy points. But it's like there's going to be scoring to be done here. We know the Bills running backs are as shabby as it gets right now. So I think if the Bills want to do what their game plan is to do, it involves Josh Allen going over that 300 yards.
Yeah, I love that. I think especially coming off of last week, I think he's going to have a lot of fire in him. I mean, and as far as this slate goes, I mean, he's probably the QB I'm the most confident in, really. So yeah, I like that a lot. No complaints.
I think he's the only one I actually have like a degree of confidence in right now, other than Dak. I mean, Dak struggled a little bit, but like we really did get like another slew of mediocre quarterbacks on Thanksgiving. But what can you do? Guys, my last one here. I'm actually going to take the under on this one. Tre'Quan Smith under 42.5 receiving yards. And, Tre'Quan Smith, he's been decent when he's come back so far this year. He actually has hit that over in 3 out of his 5 games, but none of them have been against Buffalo. And while we did see Buffalo struggle last week, give up over 40 points combined to the Indianapolis Colts, Jonathan Taylor was amazing. But that was it. It was Jonathan Taylor. Michael Pittman had a bad game. T.Y. Hilton was limited. They've been good at locking down mediocre wide receivers. And I think that's just, I mean, no offense to Tre'Quan Smith or his family, but I mean, he's just a mediocre receiver. They have one of the best corners in the league, Tre'Davious White. I just don't want to play those odds. And there's talks that Simeon could be benched by halftime as well if he's not performing.
Yeah, and I mean, kind of your usage. I mean, so I was looking at it too. I mean, he's gotten basically 7+ targets only twice this season. Callaway's gotten about the same type of usage. And I think to your point, it's wherever White is, I think they're going the opposite. So I don't know. I'm with you on the under. I just don't like this offense as a whole this week. And they have zero threat really at the running back position, or at least they have a relatively unknown at the running back position. So yeah, I like New Orleans to be a complete dud and Buffalo to just thrash them. Yeah,
100%. I'm there. We're fading the New Orleans offense a little bit. No surprise. Guys, this was Underdog Stories. We are going to move into our next segment here on the show, bringing a knife to a gunfight. This is once again brought to us by our friends over at Monkey Knife Fight. Guys, if you have not tried Monkey Knife Fight, I mean, I love a lot of these platforms, but Monkey Knife Fight's diversity, the bonuses you get, and just the sports. I mean, we're NASCAR guys here. I'm a NASCAR guy. We're golf guys, like football, basketball, you name it. I mean, you can play it on Monkey Knife Fight. Every week, Connor and Bo, they're helping you right here Sunday mornings. Getting your lineups locked and loaded for that. So, guys, if you want to check that out, I'll put that up one more time. Use that promo code IBT, and you can be like Connor. Connor, you've had some success over there lately.
Yeah, I've won pretty much now. I think the last 5 or 6 weeks, at least a little better than what I put in. And I was going to say too, you hit on a little bit. Like I do a lot of other sports on there too. Like I've been playing the golf platform on there for gosh, a couple of years now. And when we get into golf season, we'll add some of that into the show. But man, they give you some really, really interesting head-to-head props, and the odds are always super generous. I mean, like I've got a 10-legger for Thanksgiving, which I'm not going to give to you because it's insane. But $5 to win 2,500. I mean, if you're just looking to have a little bit of entertainment value, that's a hell of a payback.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, let's go ahead and get into bringing a knife to a gunfight.
All right. So I know the last few weeks we've been targeting a game, a specific game, and trying to stick to a 4 or 5 leg parlay. This week we're going to go with just the Thanksgiving Day slate. Like I said, I'm not in love with a lot of the plays in there, so I think this is the best way to kind of minimize your casualties. They are a little bit lower odds though, because I think a lot of people are thinking that way too. So a 5 out of 5 this week is down to 10x, down from 20. So I think there's a lot of action going on this on just the full slate. The first one I'm looking at is Josh Allen over Dak Prescott. They're only giving Dak 1.5 yards. So again, they're calling this basically a pick 'em. And like I said, I just really like Josh Allen. He's got his full buffet of weapons at his disposal. I like him. They like to run the score up. I don't think New Orleans is terribly threatening. So I really like Allen over Prescott. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Dak struggled lately, and his main targets might not be there. It looks like CeeDee Lamb has a chance to play, but I mean, I think this offense just runs through Amari Cooper a lot more than people think and project. So I think Josh Allen with his slew of weapons there. New Orleans, like I said, I mean, they haven't been the best defense as of lately. So, yeah, I think Allen over Prescott's a pretty the odds are within your favor for sure.
Yeah, I just don't see that going a different way. But, hey, I've been wrong. The tricky thing right now, just because we don't know if CeeDee Lamb is going to be in. So my recommendation too with a lot of these player props that you're looking at is hold off as long as you can, because Monkey Knife's cool. They'll cancel your bet for you if a player doesn't start, and they'll give you your money back. But
awesome.
If you're looking to play, like make sure that you're not all in on this yet, because you may have to rework it tomorrow morning. But anyways, my second one is Diggs over Lamb, and this is receiving yards. Again, they're calling this a pick 'em, and they're giving Lamb 1.5 yards. I mean, I think it's Diggs all day. I think Josh Allen and Diggs all day, and that's if Lamb even plays.
Yeah, Diggs has come on strong lately. It was definitely a slow start to him, but I think at the end of the day, he's going to get things going. They've played a couple times on these holiday slates, and Josh Allen always comes to play. So I think if you're going with the Josh Allen's going to have success narrative, Stephon Diggs follows that path.
Yep, for sure. And like I said, I think in my notes to you, like if it doesn't end up being Lamb and you're looking at Monkey Knife tomorrow morning, getting ready to, pick your parlay, Diggs over whoever the Dallas receiver happens to be in that equation.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think it really matters. And I think that's the important thing. That's kind of why I gave the little preface that, just pay attention to who it is and what you're betting on. Because if you're going all in on somebody who's not going to play, that's not going to pay you. My next one, I'm all over your boy Monty as well. I've got Montgomery over Elliott. They are giving Elliott 12.5 rushing yards over Monty, but the thing I noticed a little bit about Zeke is they really have been using him more in the passing game. I think he had 9 targets last week, which I know is high. So he may get his yardage, but as far as a straight rushing prop goes, I definitely lean towards Montgomery there. And the other thing too that I think will be interesting with Dallas is, depending on how it shakes out, I think the usage and involvement of Pollard may be a lot higher than what people maybe anticipate. So I'm kind of a little bit off Zeke this week as a whole, and kind of I'm with Seth with Monty going over. I think he's over 100. So
yeah, I think it's going to be hard for Zeke to keep up with Monty as far as rushing yards go. The Raiders have been struggling on defense. We've seen the free fall really commence since the Henry Rugg incident, but it's been mostly through those cornerbacks. They've really struggled. The safeties are a little bit banged up right now. So I think if there's going to be a way to exploit this Raiders defense, it's going to be through the air. It's going to be using guys like Dalton Schultz, Cedric Wilson. I just don't know. Like, Zeke's been solid for fantasy because of his receiving work, but when it comes down to it, Montgomery's getting 95% of this rush work, if not all of it. And on the other end, Pollard might take 40% of that. Again, I think the odds are back in your favor, and I'll jump on anything that has David Montgomery's name on it.
Yeah, I know I don't have to entice you too much.
No.
My next one is Waller over Renfro, and this is just receptions. They're giving Waller a half a reception, which I don't. It may be a situation where that half point actually matters, but I still like Waller a lot. Contrary to some of our peers, like I think Waller is going to have a big day. I just kind of like, I don't know why I feel that way, but I feel like Waller's due to go off. I feel like he's kind of let me down a lot this season, and I kind of like where he was trending last week, and the usage was good. I mean, even though it didn't have the output that I necessarily wanted in fantasy perspective, it was still good.
Well, and it's been interesting to see with the Cowboys defense a little bit. They have been a little more susceptible to that tight end position. We've seen Micah Parsons from Penn State kind of make that transition to not a full-time pass rusher, but definitely a majority of his snaps are as a pass rusher right now. So I think that definitely lends to the outlook for this tight end group coming in. I think like if you're really trying to throw a dart out, like Foster Moreau and like could also have a good game. But I think overall right now, if they're going to exploit this Cowboys defense, it's going to have to be through Darren Waller. And despite what we said on the podcast, or not what I said, but what my co-host Nate said, start Darren Waller in your season longs, and also go ahead and fire him up here over Hunter Renfro. Renfro is a great receiver. Don't get me wrong. I love Renfro too, but I think Darren Waller, the emergence is coming back. I think he's on an upward trend.
Totally with you. And there's another guy that I like in that offense that we'll talk about in the next segment too. My last one is I do have Gallup over Mooney reception yards. They're giving Gallup 3.5. Again, I don't think that the 3.5 matters here. I think it's either way close or not at all. And with Gallup, I think there's a situation that's going to exist where if some of the key components are out, we know Amari is going to be out. Chances are CD's not going to clear protocol by tomorrow morning. And if that becomes a situation, Gallup's a huge weapon. And I like Schultz a lot too, that you just alluded to, but I do think that they get a lot of passing going on, lack of rushing, kind of going back to our Zeke take. So I see Gallup having a decent day, and I don't know if I trust Dalton with Mooney. I think we've said it a couple times now. I just think that this is a rush first type of scenario.
Yeah. This one's probably the closest one for me, honestly. Like, I think Darnell Mooney is going to be a great play as far as season long goes this week. He's going to get those PPR points. I think he's going to be targeted. I mean, what did he have? Like 15 or 16 targets last week. It was something. Only 5 receptions goes to show the quality of the passes he's receiving. But I think he's going to be targeted heavily, especially if A-Rob's out again. They're both kind of, similar wide receivers in the aspect that they're yardage beasts. They're big play guys. But if CD is out, I would definitely feel comfortable with going Gallup over Mooney. If not, it's a toss-up for me. But I like to call it either way.
Yeah, one other thing, though, that I don't necessarily love about Mooney is, I mean, he's dealing with a foot issue too.
That's true. Yeah.
If A-Rob is hobbled as well, like, I just don't know if they're going to press their luck. I think even if he's good to go full capacity, I think it's way more Monty than anything else.
Yeah, we could even see like a little Marquise Goodwin out there too. He's been okay at times a little bit too.
I don't hate that as a little bit of a throw in DFS at all.
Yeah, absolutely. Connor, I like these picks, man. I like Monkey Knife Fight, so go check it out, guys. Connor just gave you some great picks to consider putting in your parlays there. What do you think, Connor? Should we round out some King of the Crop?
Let's do her.
Best not miss. All right. Super interesting set of DFS lineups we got going on, Connor. How are you feeling overall? I know we kind of talked about the slate overall. It's a little bit ugly, a little bit murky, but I think there's definitely some interesting values here.
Yeah, I'm with you. And you and I talked about it in the pre-show a little bit. And I think it is a week where contest selection, I think, is going to be pretty key. And the reason I say that is I think there are so many different avenues you can go to put together a lineup that when you're mass multi-entering with like 150 entries per player allowed, like you're getting guys that are able to build just a real buffet of options for themselves. Whereas if you stick to a single entry and really commit to like what you think is your core or what guys you're excited about, I think that's your leverage play this week. Outside of even trying to find the weird dart throws, I think contest selection, just be careful what you play.
Yeah, I feel like this is probably a day you're going to get a lot of casual players back in it as well. They're home from work. They might be off today, have a little time to tinker around. So I like that, Connor. I think that's great advice.
So people that watch our show like know that we typically like to target stacks or games. This is a slate where I'm really not doing a ton of that. Like I'm really more focused on playing the guys I know, or at least in my head, I think are going to smash, and then trying to build in some leverage plays around that. So a little different style, but I think I wanted to start with our quarterbacks. And I think really you got two solid options. You can either play Josh Allen or you can play Dak Prescott. And I think you got to tell yourself the narrative of how each of those games goes.
Yeah, I mean, thinking about the narratives right off the bat, you expect the Cowboys to get up a little bit early. You expect them maybe to chew some clock off some dinks and dunks to these younger wide receivers, get Tony Pollard in there a little bit. I just think Buffalo is going to come out blazing, man. That's a prime time game for them, down in New Orleans, so that weather's not a factor there. I think I like Josh Allen. If I'm going to play one of these main two guys, it's probably Josh Allen. And Connor, do you think that like if you are setting a lineup, one of these two guys have to be in it?
I think the upside for one of these two guys is hard to ignore. And the price is the tough part. I think honestly, the way things are trending right now with the people that are going to be out and the salary relief that gives you at other positions, I think there's it would be really hard to make an argument not to play Allen or Prescott. I just think you're talking about 30 plus points upside on one and or both of them. I mean, so I think it's a must play one of them.
Would you be like, if you had to pick one of these guys to throw in a lineup, even though you're advising not to, let's think of Derek Carr, Trevor Siemian, Andy Dalton's down there, 5,500. Would you be interested in any of their services? Maybe Jared Goff, 5,100, or are you staying clear of these, backup to close to backup quarterbacks?
I'm probably Siemian. I'm probably out on. I'm not sold he's going to make it through the whole game. I can get there on Dalton, depending if you've got A-Rob and Mooney both playing, and you think that's more of a passing game. I could see Dalton doing okay and being serviceable.
That's the only one I like. That's the only one I like out of that group. Maybe is like, but Andy Dalton's done it before. Where like, I bet I don't know what his ownership percentage is here, but I mean, you might get a little bit of variety there if he does happen to hit.
And I like that he's mobile too. I mean, he's not Josh Allen, he's not Lamar Jackson, but I mean, the guy can move. So I mean, I don't hate that. The only thing that I look at with Andy Dalton is if we're talking pure upside potential, I mean, he might, in my mind, be able to get up around the 20-point mark.
Yeah.
And then so the way I think through building a lineup is if I think Josh Allen's going to score 30 points and I decide to play Dalton, where am I getting my other 10 back from?
Yeah, for sure.
And so I don't know that you've got that.
Yeah. Going to the running backs, Connor, who are some running backs that you're going to be targeting on this slate?
So David Montgomery is probably my favorite one. I just think he's the clear-cut, workhorse out of everybody that's available. There's some, you can make an argument that Zeke is a good play for sure. Because again, we're not looking at strictly rushing yards. We can, and if he's going to get targeted 8, 9, 10 times, especially with their passing core or receiving core down the way it is, like I can definitely see Zeke being a great play. I just don't love the price tag on Zeke. I get Monty for $2,000 less than Zeke.
Yeah, I think that's the whole kit and caboodle right there. Even DeAndre Swift is sitting there at 7,300, which I see him having just as good of an impact in week 12 here as I do Ezekiel Elliott.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, right? Is like you're telling me that Zeke has more DFS value than Josh Allen does, and I just don't see that. And I think there's other running backs that have just as good an upside, if not more. Josh Jacobs is another one. Like, I loved the uptick in targets last week. Like, he bumped way up. 7 targets. He looked decent. He had 9 rushing attempts. I mean, it's not like they didn't use him. He came away with with what's a middling performance really for DFS standards. But I could see a situation this week where he gets more involved. If Dallas is pressing, has a good pass rush going on and all that, I could see a lot of dink and dunk to Jacobs. And the same reason I like Waller. I like I think that they're going to be super involved this week.
It's difficult with Josh Jacobs because it seems like either one week he has a really good impact in the receiving games, like you said, saw 7 targets last week. And then the week before, Kenyon Drake's pretty viable. So it's tough to see where they're going with this. This is an interim coaching staff, so it's kind of hard to see philosophy and long-term approach here. But it does look like Josh Jacobs. I mean, he's gotten more targets this year than I had projected already throughout the whole year. So, I mean, you do like to see that.
And I do. So I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because I've hit big using Kenyon Drake before when maybe he shouldn't have hit, but he magically does. I was looking at the target shares, at least on the receiving side, and it's more that Drake's just been more efficient with them. He's not getting more targets than Jacobs is. Yeah. He's just doing more with them. And so I'm trying to look at both sides of that because I really do like one of them. And I'm just leaning towards the volume of Jacobs as my decider.
5,900. I feel like if you went with a Montgomery and Josh Jacobs stack, like I again, you play more DFS than I do, Connor, but that seems like a manageable amount that you could work around.
Yeah, it's in terms of running backs, like that is significantly less expensive than you normally have to pay to get 2 quality running backs in. I mean, Typically we're sitting here talking about 7,200 and above, all the way up to like 10K. And how do we stack a couple of these guys?
Right.
So I think you can build a really nice balanced lineup. And I think some of the injuries at the other positions are what are actually helping you do that.
Interesting. Speaking of those other positions, Connor, what are you feeling here at the wide receiver and or tight end position this week?
So I might defer to you a little bit on who you like at wide receiver, because I don't really have a strong lean. The tight ends are where I have very strong lean. But I mean, if I'm looking at places the ball is going to have to go, I don't mind Cole Beasley. From a price perspective, I don't mind Cole Beasley. I like some of the production. I think he's going to outproduce some of the wide receivers in the other games. So I don't think you lose anything by playing him. Now, if you want to play a game stack, obviously going Josh Allen, Steph Diggs, probably as safe an option as you're going to have.
Yeah.
But the rest of your lineup starts to look a little interesting because that's a lot to spend up top for 2 guys.
Yeah, and I feel like their rostership percentages are going to be up there. But, I mean, I do love that stack. It's staring you in the face every time you open the app. So I think that's a great play. I do like Hunter Renfrow a little bit at 5,600. I think there's some movable amount of money that comes from that. And, way down the list there, what about Cedric Wilson at 3,500? I mean, will that number raise at all if CeeDee Lamb is out?
That's the nice thing about DK is the pricing is fixed for you. So right. that won't move on you. The ownership will go through the roof, I think. Because that fully allows you to do Josh Allen, Steph Diggs, and even the running backs we're talking about.
Yeah, that I would, even with CeeDee Lamb in play, I would be willing to risk it to get that Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen stack, and then roll out Cedric Wilson. Like, if we're just spitballing names here, like, at the bottom of the list, dart throws, I like him. We talked about Marquise Goodwin a little bit at 3,800. I think that gives you a little bit of something to do, especially if A-Rob's out for the Bears. That's going to determine a lot there. But, I mean, those are I'm not trying to play Deshaun Jackson or a Gabe Davis or, Traquan Smith. Like, I'm out on those guys. But these guys a little bit farther down, I'm definitely in on.
Yeah, and I mean, I think you can do some other things too, like to start to balance out that lineup. If you do want to go Josh Allen, Steph Diggs, Renfro, you want to slam some of these guys in. I think if Ingram and Kamara are both out, you can get Tony Jones at $4,000. Now, I'm not saying that Tony Jones is a smash play, but I am saying like they're going to have to use a running back in the game at some point.
Yeah.
And so that saves you another, just off of Josh Jacobs, another $1,900. So, I mean, it's stuff like that unfortunately on a Wednesday afternoon, a lot of these announcements haven't been made yet. And so, it's just something, check your lineups in the morning, because there are some really interesting pivot plays that may become available for you that'll allow you to get the high end receivers into your lineup.
I like that. What do you have for tight end here, Connor? Because it definitely seems like there's 3 guys at the top or 4 guys at the top. Then it's kind of everyone else.
So I'll tell you 100% something that I don't do often. And a lot of guys that are good at DFS do this almost weekly, but I'm actually playing 2 tight ends in my lineup this week. And I'm actually alternating the combinations of those guys. My lock at tight end is Darren Waller, and I'm going to play him in pretty much every single one of those combinations, but I'm going to mess around, and I don't trust Hawk and Goff, but I think there's a little bit of leverage there, because I think with the price points, I think you're going to have a lot of people that are going to want to play Dalton Schultz. He's safer. They're going to want to play Darren Waller because the volume's going to be there. And I think Hawkinson's maybe the odd man out in that people aren't as confident. So I like all those plays objectively. And I think if you want to get a little risky, maybe Hawkinson's your guy there. But like I said, my lock's going to be Waller.
I mean, you can't go wrong with Darren Waller. 6,400 is a pretty solid.
Oh, yes, you can.
Yeah, I guess you can.
Review my 10-legger. Thanks, Darren Waller.
Right. But I mean, I think for 6,400, it's a solid price tag this week. I definitely, though, agree. Like, I'm more inclined to play a guy like Dalton Schultz or Hawkinson over some of these like mid-range wide receivers that we talked to about, Hunter Renfro, Michael Gallup, those types of guys. I don't know. I'm always on TJ Hawkinson, so I definitely have maybe some rose-tinted glasses. But I mean, a game has to come, right? I mean, he has 1 touchdown his touchdown rate is incredibly low this season. I just think it has to even out at some point. Maybe it doesn't, and maybe this is just the byproduct of a Jared Goff-led offense. But I have to think a big game for TJ Hawkinson is in the cards. I mean, and the dude goes out there every single week and just cleans it up, man. Like he cleans up these shabby blocks from the offensive linemen. He's out there trying to catch uncatchable balls. I just think the guy's a trooper and he needs rewarded. I don't know if it's this week, but I'm gonna hope like hell, man, because I'm gonna be rocking him out in every roster.
Well, yeah, I'm with you, and I think as a real world player, I mean, the guy is incredibly talented. I think unfortunately we fall into the category of people that base how good somebody is on their fantasy performance.
Absolutely.
And so I think sometimes you miss the little things. You don't see TJ making an 80-yard reception for a touchdown, but you maybe miss that he's had close to 11 targets in 70% of the games this year. So to your point, I mean, the breakout's coming, and it's all the little things he's doing that are going to make that possible. And I think he's a strong play in an offense that's pretty shaky. And if Swift gets shut down, which he most likely will, that offense has got to go through somebody.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think like any interest in like a Dawson Knox or Schultz at all, Connor, are you going to be mixing them in those rotations?
Yeah, I'll have a lot of Schultz. Dawson Knox, I think he's the shiny new thing, right? Like I think if you look at like he comes back doing really well for a couple of weeks in a row. Diggs really stole the show last week. I think people maybe by proxy are assuming that Dawson Knox is going to be as involved, and I don't necessarily see that being the case this week, especially against New Orleans. I see it being another Diggs game. And like I said, Beasley is the guy that I think is probably going to have a better game than what most people are projecting.
I could see it. Cole Beasley likes to show up for these like holiday nitty gritty games as well. But Dawson Knox is a tough player because, I mean, the breakout happened so quickly. It was very heavily touchdown-based breakout rather than, a full volume breakout that we've seen. So either way, though, I mean, I love these tight ends this week, man. I'm a little bit of a tight end hunter, so I'm definitely fine rolling out 2 of these guys.
Well, and I do think, honest to God, and this is probably the only week of the year I'll say this. I think your big contests are going to be won and lost on the tight ends this week. Like I think it's clear cut. That's the position that you're going to have somebody that's going to hit. I think you're going to have really condensed ownership because I don't think there's a whole hell of a lot to look at below the top 4 or 5 guys.
No.
So I think spend your time trying to figure out how to juggle your tight ends and how you want to mix and match and how you want to stack. Dawson Knox with Josh Allen, to your point, maybe a good stack to have, and I'll probably have some of that. But yeah, spend the time on the tight ends this week because I think the rest is a lot of unknown.
100%. Connor, do you have any final advice for our listeners, our viewers tonight before they head out on this holiday excursion and set these DFS lineups and these prop bets?
Just remember, you got 2 slates this week. I mean, you got Thanksgiving slate, and then you got the main slate on Sunday. So don't blow it all in one place. Don't chase. I have a real bad habit on Thanksgiving of sitting in front of the TV, and I lose my first showdown. I chase my next one.
Yeah,
save some money for the weekend. Enjoy your family. Have fun. Like this is all supposed to be for fun. Don't let it ruin your day. Don't let it ruin your family's time. Have a good time. Have a couple cocktails, and we'll catch you before the game on Sunday too. So we'll give you some more advice. We'll get you back.
Absolutely. Yeah. Connor will be back on Sunday morning. If you guys want to tune into that starts at noon Eastern time. Him and Bo, Nate, the usual gang will be back with you. I will not be, but guys, if you want to check out more of what we got going over here in Between Media, we got columns coming out the rest of the week. We're into our Between the Holidays campaign as well. So we have a tips column coming out with 25 plus fantasy sports influencers on there. So make sure you guys check that out. Connor, it was always a pleasure, man. I hope you enjoy some Busch Lights for me tonight.
Hey, you too, buddy. It was a lot of fun. Cheers to you. Tell your family the best. Have a good holiday.
Everyone too. Yeah. Cheers, everyone. Take care. Be safe this weekend.